Do you need the speakers?
Oh, well, it's not that important. All right, that's just a little intro because we're sharing Fe'fe fairy tales today, as you will be able to see here. And I need my costume.
Okay, welcome everyone to
Don't forget your tail.
Fe'fe Fairy Tales. And our first selection today is Little Red Proto-Fe'fe and the Big Bad Wolf with a Nominal Appetite. Before we begin the story, the preface is a typical canonical Bantu language like Swahili typically has several noun classes. Any Bantu languages could have 15 to 20 noun classes. So just putting it in the context of the Bantu language families very quickly. This is an example of Swahili. So let us begin. Once upon a time, in a certain region of the grass fields of Cameroon, lived a little girl named Proto-Fe'fe. Her mother was named Bamelike and was excessively fond of her, and her grandmother was named Bantu, spoiled her even more. One day, Proto-Fe'fe got a little red hood, and from then on, everyone called her Little Red Proto-Fe'fe. One day, her mother, having had some noun classes, having made some noun class cakes, said to her, "Go, my dear, and see how your grandmother Bantu is doing, for I hear she has been very ill, and take her these 11 noun class cakes with Concord sprinkles." Little Red Proto-Fe'fe set out immediately to go to her grandmother, who has houses all over Africa. As she was going through the wood, she met a wolf, who had a very great mind to eat her up and enjoy some delicious noun class cakes. But he dared not, because some woodcutters were working nearby in the forest. He asked her, "Where are you going, poor child?" Who did not know it was dangerous to talk. Totally mixed up characters. The poor child who did not know it was dangerous to talk to strangers, and even especially talking to a wolf, said to him, "I'm going to see my grandmother Bantu and carry her little noun class cakes for my mother." The wolf said, "Does she live far off?" "Oh, I say, it's beyond the mill, you see, at the first house." The wolf responded, "Well, I go to see her too. I will go this way, and you go that, and we will see who will be first." The wolf ran as fast as he could, taking the shortest path, and the little girl took the roundabout way, entertaining herself by gathering nuts and running after butterflies and gathering bouquets of flowers. It was not long before the wolf arrived at the old woman's house. He knocked on the door. "Who's there?" "Your grandchild, Little Red Proto-Fe'fe, who had brought you noun class cakes with Concord sprinkles by my mother." As the wolf couldn't even try to imitate Little Red Proto-Fe'fe's voice. "Pull the bobbin on the latch and the door will open." The wolf pulled the bobbin on the door and then immediately fell upon the good old woman and ate her up in a moment for more than 3 days since he had eaten. He shut the door and got into the grandmother's bed and put on the night clothes, expecting little Proto-Fe'fe, who came sometime afterwards, and she knocked on the door. And the wolf answered, trying to imitate Grandmother Bantu. "Who's there?" Little Red Proto-Fe'fe, hearing the big wolf voice, trying to act like her grandmother, was first afraid, but still believing her grandmother was very sick and hoarse. She still answered, "It is your grandchild, Little Red Proto-Fe'fe, who has brought you noun class cakes with delicious Concord sprinkles. Mother sends you." The wolf, trying to imitate Grandma once again, "Pull the bobbin, and the latch will go up." Little red Proto Fe'fe pulled the bobbin, opened the door, and the wolf, seeing her come in, still hiding himself in Grandma's night clothes, said, "Come to bed with me, and you'll see how sickly your grandmother is." Little red Proto Fe'fe, also noticing how Grandma looks quite strange in her night clothes. "Grandmother, what big noun classes you have! All the better to have grammatical function, my dear. Grandmother, what concord you have! All the better to have sentences agree, my child. Grandmother, what prefixes you have! All the better to mark nouns agree, my child. Grandmother, what big teeth you've got! All the better to eat you with." Saying these words, the wicked wolf fell upon Little Red Proto Fe'fe and ate 5 noun class cakes. And after this, he lunged at the rest of the noun class cakes and Little Red Proto Fe'fe herself. But he fell into a noun class coma because since last week, he ate all the classes of the Monday languages. Little Red Proto Fe'fe escaped with 6 noun classes and now is only called Little Red Fe'fe, because since after the encounter with the wolf, she was never the same. The moral of the story: languages, especially ones carrying delicious noun class cakes, should never talk to strangers, for if they should do so, they may well provide dinner for a wolf, and only escape with a reduced noun class system.
Can I do this for my thesis defense?
All right, children, have a seat. Story time with grandmother. Listen closely, dears. Once upon a time, there were many Fe'fe nouns. They lived happily in houses made of genders. They had many gender houses. Each one was made up of 2 rooms, a singular classroom and a plural classroom. And they had special class prefix hats and concord shoes to wear in each room. They all knew which noun belonged to which gender house because each house had different prefix hats and concord shoes. Although they could move freely from the singular classroom to the plural classroom, they didn't leave their gender houses. Until one day, the big bad wolf of language change came. He didn't like the little pigs staying in their many little gender houses. He approached one of the gender houses and howled, little nouns, let me come in." But they stuck out their tongues at him and replied all sassy, "Not by the hair of our chinny chin chin." So the language change wolf huffed, and he puffed, and he blew their house in! And the little pigs screamed, and they lost their concord shoes, and they lost their prefix hats, and they ran away, and they scattered to the other houses. And the wolf went and blew down several more of their houses. And all those little nouns ran to join the other gender houses, so the wolf wouldn't get them. The gender houses got crowded, but everyone worked together to expand their houses. And they shared class prefix hats and concord shoes, and they were all happy. Until one day, the big bad wolf of language change came back. He was angry that the nouns were living securely in 11 gender houses. He saw that they had class prefix hats and concord shoes for the singular classroom and the plural classroom in each house. So he approached one of the gender houses and howled, little nouns, let me come in." And what did they reply? "I'm right here, chin. So the language change wolf huffed, and he puffed, and he blew! And the house didn't fall. So again, He huffed, and he puffed, and he huffed, and he puffed, and he blew their house in! And the house fell down, and the little nouns screamed, and their class prefix hats fell off, and their conqueror shoes came off, and the nouns scattered, and the wolf went and blew down several more of their houses. 8 gender houses fell in that one day. There were only 3 gender houses left. All the nouns joined them, but they were sadder now. They had lost almost all of their class prefix hats, but they still had their conquered shoes. In the first gender house where human nouns lived, they wore singular possessive conquered shoes that began with L. Their possessive conquered shoes began with J. In the second house, which had the most nouns, the nouns wore singular possessive shoes that began with Z. And they wore the same plural possessive shoes the first house did, J. And in the third gender house, the nouns, which are often body parts or things that come in pairs, they wore singular possessive conquered shoes that began with M. Most of them had plural possessive shoes that began with J also, but some of them kept their M shoes. But, children, this story doesn't have an ending yet. Will the wolf come back and blow down the last 3 noun gender houses? Will the little nouns decide to join together into one big gender house? Kachiza, we don't know.
My name is Goldilocks, and I have a story to tell you that happened to me one day. Once upon a time, I went for a stroll in the woods, and as I strolled, I began to feel frustrated and so hungry. I could really eat some Bantu Concord right now, I thought to myself. Concord helps me know who I am and to which class I belong. And then, like magic, I happened upon a restaurant called Bare Necessities Restaurant. All the parts of speech you could ever eat buffet. Surely they have Concord there. How could I not go in and give it a try? So I knocked on the door. No one answered. I pushed on the door and it opened easily. So I went in the restaurant cautiously, thinking someone might come around. Maybe a grammatical relation to wait on me, but I saw no one. So I sat down. And then I smelled something that took my breath away. 5 bowls of delicious soup. I could just smell the Concord. Clear noun class distinction was at my fingertips. And so I tried the first soup. It was relative clauses soup, and I thought, maybe there's Concord here, but there wasn't. Nope. Only the position of the head noun in the subordinate clause was marked. That was the only difference. There was no Concord. It was way too weak. So I thought, I'll try soup number 2. Demonstrative stew. There were interesting differences there as well, but still no Concord. The only differences were determined by the distance relative to the speaker. Like here and there and like really far away, or near the speaker, near the hearer, far from both of them, and then some like if you're gossiping and you're like, ooh, that baby is big right there, or that baby is big over there. But no Concord. It was too scattered. Not a good soup. So I tried soup number 3. It was quantifier and adjective bisque. Surely there would be Concord, but nothing, not even a hint of Concord. All the nouns received the same numbers and the adjectives. Too boring. Maybe soup number 4 would be good. Verb porridge. Surely, verbs are tasty. Verbs have agreement. But no Concord, only the bare roots, no matter what the subjects or the objects were. There might be a little hint of nasal in there for incomplete aspect, but still no Concord. Too bland. Only one soup left, and I tried it. Cream of singular possessives. Oh, this is just right. This is the only Concord that was in any of the soups at this restaurant, and it was the best Concord I have ever tasted. Now I can tell the noun classes apart. It was so delicious. I thought, this is perfect. And then suddenly I heard voices. The owners of the restaurant were coming, so I consumed what I could of the cream of singular possessives and ran out the door, filled up to my head with beautiful, delicious, clear Concord.
Right inside.
Uh,
Or should I be?
maybe like, yeah. Okay. Once upon a time, in a peaceful meadow, there lived 3 Fe'fe goat spa. One day, while grazing in the meadow on bites of Fe'fe noun grass class, they all decided it would be a good idea to find out more about their favorite food. Since they lived near a bridge which overlooked the valley of Fe'fe noun class, they decided to get a closer look. The first Fe'fe goat was a descriptive linguist, interested in describing the language the way it is spoken today. His name was Fe'fe goat Gangun. When Fe'fe goat Gangun looked across the bridge, he saw only 2 types of noun grasses. These noun grasses were solely distinguished by tone, and they only showed up on the singular possessive pronouns. Like this. There you go. It all looked so yummy. So he clip-clopped across the bridge. Suddenly, a mean, nasty data troll jumped out from beneath the bridge. He called out in a loud voice, "Stop! He who wishes the other side to see must tell to me the genders 3. Fe'fe goat Gangun replied, 3? But there are only 2 noun classes. The data troll smiled a cruel smile. Oh ho, then how do you explain these? He waved his hand and a magical, difficult example appeared out of thin air. Fe'fe goat Gangun thought to himself as he examined the magic examples floating in the air. Then at last he said, La? Qu'est-ce que c'est? Why, I don't know what the la is there. Shouldn't it be sen a? With that, the data troll let out a malicious laugh and began savagely beating Fe'fe goat Gangun until he fell off the bridge and drowned in the murky waters of noun class 9. Next, Fe'fe goat Gangun's younger brother, Fe'fe goat Hyman, looked across the bridge. Now, Fe'fe goat Hyman was a historical linguist, and he remembered the 11 noun classes in the ancient land of Proto-Bamileke. When he looked across the bridge, he could see that the 11 noun classes were still there, arranged in 6 genders. They were greatly reduced, but they were still there. He could see them on the prefixes attached to the singular possessive pronouns, and nowhere else. It looked very yummy, so he clip-clopped across the bridge. Then suddenly, the mean, nasty data troll leapt out from beneath the bridge. He called out in a loud voice, "Stop! He who wishes the other side to see must tell to me the genders 3. Hyman smugly replied, 3? Silly troll, there are 6 genders made up of 11 noun classes, as anyone can plainly see. The data troll smiled a cruel smile. Oh ho, then how do you explain these? He waved his hands, and the magical examples appeared again. Hyman was undeterred. He answered confidently, the L in la is an underlying consonant. But that example should be sen a. Some silly field method student must have transcribed it wrong. With that, the data troll let out a malicious laugh and stabbed Fe'fe Goat Hyman right through the heart, so that he fell off the bridge and disappeared beneath the murky waters of Mount Class Concord. The third and the youngest Fe'fe Goat buff was named Fe'fe Goat Brown et al. Now, Fe'fe Goat Brown et al. was a lowly field method student, and her only interest in Fe'fe was to earn a good grade. But when she looked across the bridge, she saw that there were only 3 genders in Fe'fe. They were all marked on the singular possessive pronouns. She could see one marked with Z, she could see one marked with L, and one marked with M. Since it all looked so delicious, she clip-clopped across the bridge. Suddenly the same mean, nasty data troll leapt out from her, shouting in a loud voice, "Stop! He who wishes the other side to see must tell to me the genders 3. Fe'fe Goat Brown replied, "Why, yes, there are 3 noun genders in Fe'fe. The most common one looks like it takes the singular possessive with a prefix Z. The second most common one takes a singular possessive prefix L. And the last one takes the singular possessive prefix M." The data troll was very disappointed in this answer, and he lowered the semi-automatic rifle. Yes, that's right, he said. But wait, can you explain these? And he waved his hand, and a magical example appeared once more. "I already told you," said Fe'fe Goat Brown. "The L forms a separate class." Now the data troll had no idea what to do. This had never happened before. I guess you may pass." Fe'fe Goat Brown said cheerfully, "Thank you," and began to cross the bridge. As she passed the mean, nasty data troll, she turned and said, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" The data troll was confused, but said, "Yes, I think." Fe'fe Goat Brown continued, "What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?" The data troll was more confused than ever now. "What? I don't know that." Then Fe'fe Goat Brown gave the data troll a vicious butt with her long curly horns. And just like that, the data troll tumbled into the water, never to be seen again. As Fe'fe Goat Brown walked away, the murky waters of Noun Class Concord suddenly became clear. The end.
Oh, one more thing.
Oh, that's right. We've got to clean up our mess here.
This production of Fe'fe Fairy Tales was brought you by Sweep It Under the Rug Industries.
Chris, you got questions?
No, I think that was